The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 78.
I'm going to give you a little advice. There's a force in the universe that makes things happen. And all you have to do is get in touch with it. Stop thinking, let things happen, and be the ball.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
What's up? This is Jeff Pellizzero with the 18 Strong Podcast. Thank you for joining me this week. This week we have a very interesting guest. We've got a guy that I've known for many years, Sam Goulden, who is originally from St. Louis. Sam and I knew each other back in the day, kind of lost touch a little bit over the following years, and then recently, I guess over the last year, have kind of reconnected, and then we touched base at the PGA show, and things just kind of snowballed from there. But Sam is a guy who's been on a journey like no other. He started out in St. Louis, playing golf, teaching golf, ended up California, living in a tent, playing mini tour golf. It seems like every time I would go online and see Sam post something on Facebook, he was either in Arizona or California or some crazy place, and it was like, what is going on with Sam? Where is he? What's he doing? He was always tied in with something going on that was golf related. And now Sam, this interview, Sam is in Puerto Rico, living in Puerto Rico, and he's on a mission. We've got a 30-day project, that we'll call it, that he's on with a couple of guys. It's incredible, that we'll talk about a little bit in this interview. But I look at Sam as just a true student of the game of golf. He's kind of like a samurai on a quest to learn as much as possible and find the most enjoyment in the game of golf. And he does that through his teaching, does it through his playing, and you'll find in our interview, Sam really kind of traditionally was taught very technically, and I can remember him having a notebook that he would take with him to the range, and he would write down things that he was feeling with different shots and what he was, even the mental piece, what he was thinking when he was working on different practice methods and going through different things on the range. But he was taught to be very technical with the swing, was always working on different things in his own game. But more recently, Sam has really been introduced to the mental side. And when I say mental side, I don't mean like the sports psychology side. I mean more so like an Eastern philosophy, kind of ancient, meditation, mind over matter kind of mental game. And he's been working with the guys from Focus Band very much, working with Jason Goldsmith, who works with Jason Day. And, you're going to hear a lot of the different stories that Sam has to tell from just his journey, but also the experiences that he's had working with the Focus Band and working with golfers, and what their experience has been when they start to tap into a little bit more of the mental side as far as being able to focus and concentrate and really working on those pieces, and almost straying a little bit from the technical piece when they're working on the practice range, the putting green, and just going out to play. So it was really cool to catch up with Sam at the PGA show. We hung out a little bit with him and the guys from Focus Band, and really kind of started talking about a lot of this stuff, which is what kind of led to this interview. But before we jump into the interview, I do have to give a quick shout out to our boys over at Rad Roller, Curtis, Nick, all those guys. These guys have been killing it as far as it goes with the soft tissue myofascial release, all the foam rolling stuff. You most likely heard Nick on the podcast talking about foam rolling and how important it is. But these guys have a couple products that I've been using at the gym. They were kind enough to send me some, and just to work on the upper back, the soft tissue, the hips, everything. So if you haven't checked out the Rad Roller stuff, go to radroller.com. You can go on there. They were nice enough to give us an 18 Strong code too. So if you use the 18 Strong code, you'll get a 10% discount. But I guarantee you won't be disappointed in the Rad Roller products. We've been using them at the gym. All my clients love it. So go ahead and check them out. And then lastly, I want to thank everybody for kind of an influx of ratings and reviews on iTunes. It's been phenomenal. And I want to read one of the most recent reviews that we got, just to give a little shout out again to to all the people that have been, kind enough to go and take their time to leave a review. And if you haven't, you can go to iTunes, look up 18 Strong, go to the ratings and reviews and leave one. But this one is from the nickname AJ Lacombe 1. I've been listening to the podcast for quite some time now and have to admit that this is a great podcast. Jeff has a lot to offer to any golfer. My favorite parts have been on the pre-round warm-up. I struggled with trying to get some feeling in my game for cold weather rounds, and using the 18 Strong pre-round warm-up was the answer that I've been searching for. Highly recommended. And if you don't know what the warm-up is, go to the show notes for this episode number 78, and at the very bottom of the page, we've got a full-blown pre-round warm-up, 20-minute warm-up that you can do at your house. We've got a cheat sheet printed that you can print out with pictures of the exercises. So go there, click on the link, and you'll get that. It's a video, 20-minute video or so, and you can get that pre-round warm-up, which definitely does help to loosen you up, get you ready, get you primed for that first tee. All right, now that you got all that, let's jump right into the interview with Sam. Hey, Sam, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, my pleasure, Jeff. Good to be here.
Absolutely. All right, first thing we want to know is, are you more of a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
I have to say Caddyshack. And the reason, most recently, I have to say, because when Ty is doing that whole be the ball, Danny thing, because of my most recent experience with Focus Band, I have this new appreciation for that scene. And maybe people will understand a little bit more after they hear us talk a little bit about Focus Band. But that's a pretty neat scene to me now that maybe I skipped over back then, and now I'm kind of like, wow, that was actually a great scene from Ty in that movie.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense with the tie-in with what you have, and to me, you just kind of seem like kind of a golf purist, Sam. So I figured you'd probably go Caddyshack.
Yeah, I can't say I love Happy Gilmore. Believe me, one of my favorite movies. But when it comes down to it, Happy Gilmore is a close second to my favorite golf movie, which is Caddyshack.
All right, before we dive into everything that you have going on, I want to know, is there a person, maybe an experience, or even a book that has been super influential to you and where you are today?
Yeah, I think the first golf book that I read, and I've read hundreds now, but I know the first golf book that I read was 5 Lessons from Ben Hogan, The Modern Fundamentals of Golf. And I would say, there's so many people that are going to say that's influential, but for me, it was my only coach, and I spent hours every day, and I had some great mentors along the way, but I spent hours every day just trying to do what Hogan suggested in that book. So I have to say, and I know it's cliche, but that was my biggest mentor getting started. And then in the last 5 years, it's definitely been Jason Goldsmith, who is a big part of Focus Band and has been so giving with his time and free with his time to help me develop as a player and as a coach. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about what he does and how he's influenced me. But I would definitely say Hogan early on and Jason Goldsmith most recently.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about Jason, especially from you, and I'm really looking forward to being able to chat with him at some point in the future. And then the Ben Hogan book, The 5 Lessons, was also my first golf book. I remember getting it for Father's Day from my dad, and just, that was when I was just kind of getting into golf, and it was my first year being a father. So, this was just, 8 years ago. And that book definitely kind of changed my view of the game and gave me more of an appreciation and really introduced me to Ben Hogan and who he was. So, very great book. All right, so you and I, we met years ago, many moons ago here in St. Louis. I want you to kind of catch us up on where you've been since you were in St. Louis when we met, some of the adventures you've had, and then where you are today and what you're doing. And then we'll get into a lot of these projects that you're working on right now.
Yeah, thank you. So when we met, I was about 3 years into a 10-year mission. And, I think like a lot of golfers, I was just on the path. I was on a journey to try to find, the answers that could help me become a better player. And the reason we met is because I was just really open. At the time, I was reading a lot and practicing a lot. And someone suggested that I meet with a physical trainer, and it led me to you. And I don't necessarily think that our meeting, when we met and I did the training and stuff, I don't think that had a huge impact on my game. And it's not because the physical training couldn't have a huge impact on my game. It was more because just at the time, it was more about meeting you, I think, was what brought me there. But in 2006, I decided as a coach, I played college golf, and I really hadn't been that successful as a player, and I decided I just wanted to be a coach. But in 2006, I decided I wanted to win the U.S. Open. So that kind of shift or redirect in my mind just took me down a path. And it was all about how can I be the best player I can be, and what's it going to take for me to get to that goal to win the U.S. Open. So I met you a couple years after that. I worked with guys like Jim Hardy and Hank Haney, and just did everything I thought it might take to help me become that player that could win the U.S. Open. And after we met, shortly after we met, I sold my house and sold everything I owned and moved to Los Angeles, California to play on a mini tour there. I did a lot of research, and I had a good conversation with the guy who runs the Golden State Tour, which is just a mini tour in Los Angeles like all the rest. But I really liked the guy, and I felt good about him, and a couple other things worked out to allow me to move to Los Angeles. So I sold my house, sold my car, sold all my stuff, and just threw my clubs in travel bag and flew to Los Angeles and kind of reset, and I had some help from a couple sponsors. I had about $10,000, which any golfer that's tried to do it, I try to do would know that's not going to last very long. But
yeah, that can go pretty quick.
Yeah, it got me in a few events, and I played and I shot. I think I shot 68 a couple times in a couple 3-day events, but it was always coupled with a 77 or a 74 or something. And so I never won any money really on the Golden State Tour. And then because I wasn't winning any money and didn't have any sponsors, I had to go teach more and start playing smaller events to just get the experience of playing competitive events. And it was really good. I won a couple events on the Pepsi Tour, which is a really small tour, but it was great to figure out sort of and understand what it takes to win. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I decided that, I'm 36. At the time I was 33. And it just to me seemed like a waste of time to spend all of my years on the mini tours. And even though I sort of knew I wasn't ready to be on the PGA Tour, I just felt like, winning $1,000 a week or something on the mini tour wasn't worth it. I needed to go see what it was like out on the PGA Tour. So I started doing Monday qualifiers. Again, sold everything I had and did a kind of like garage sale / help me get out there on the road party, and got a little bit of money, about $3,000, and set out on the road for a 9-month adventure, which $3,000 wasn't going to make it. Excuse me. But yeah, I traveled the country. I played every Monday qualifier that was available, and there are 2 stages of Monday qualifying. There's a pre-qualifier and then the Monday qualifier, and I got through I think 3 or 4 of the pre-qualifiers into the Monday qualifiers that first year. And man, I lived really, really frugal, like pretty much an understatement. I mean, I slept in a tent a lot of the time. I snuck into campgrounds to not pay the camping fee. I was eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches and just getting from event to event. And Jeff, you've known me a while, so you know that I wasn't. It was like I'm an adult. It's not like I'm a kid and like, what am I going to do if I don't make money this week? It's more like, okay, I've made this decision. I don't have any money this week. I'm not going to eat well, but this is what I'm here to do. And it was more about experience to me than it was about actually achieving the goal of qualifying, which, right or wrong, it definitely gave me the experience. And so I did rough it quite a bit for the first couple of years trying to do that. But it was an awesome experience. And so, I've always been a coach, and for the last 9 years and 10 months, I've really been focusing on being a player as well. And I guess to catch us all up, it was coaching for a lot of my career, and then playing for the most recently. It's been a lot of playing and just trying to figure out, as a player and a coach, what is this game, and how can I most understand this game, and how can I help myself, and how can I help others in this game. And that's just led me, all over the country and all over the world to where I am right now.
Which is Puerto Rico.
Which is Puerto Rico, which is amazing.
Yeah, so, and I want to delve into what you're doing down there. I obviously just bought a place down there and are kind of making that your home base, but you've got kind of a cool little project going on that's leading up to some things in March, and so we're going to talk about all that. But let's kind of go into talking about the Focus Band a little bit, because you've really been traveling around doing a lot of teaching and educating using the Focus Band. I know that you've been working very closely with the founders, Graham and Henry Bolton, who we had a chance to sit down and have a chat with in Orlando. And, you guys were all chatting about how this whole thing started and working with Jason Day and Michelle Wee. So give us a little background for those of us that don't know that much about what the Focus Band is, and then we can kind of go further into some of the different experiences.
Sure. Yeah. The Focus Band, basically a lot of people look at this technology. And what it is it looks like a headband, really, like a sweatband, but it's a headband that you wear and it measures your brain's state of mind, kind of your state of mind. So it seems kind of, I don't know, like this super ultra modern science, but the reality is it's very much based in an ancient practice. And we use this word mushin, which is a Japanese term that means mind of no-mindedness. And so I guess to give you a real clear picture of what we're talking about in Focus Band, obviously over audio it's a little challenging, but you wear this headband and it measures your state of mind. So over the last, probably 100 years basically of neuroscience, we've developed the understanding that there is a frequency associated with different mind states. So you have a very low frequency in sleep, and then you have this just a little bit higher frequency in these deep states of meditation, and you have a little bit higher range of frequencies for peak performance, and then you have, as you get into critical thinking and analytical thinking and fear and anxiety, the frequencies go up. So what the Focus Band does, this headband, it measures what state of mind you're in, what frequency your brain is emitting, and it can kind of give you some neurofeedback or some audio and visual feedback of what's happening inside your brain. So the application of it is, if you were golfing and you were having the greatest round of your life, and we've probably everyone listening to this podcast has had this experience where you're out there, and if not in golf, in some way, you're out there and you're just doing. You're just playing, and there's no fear, there's no like analytical thought, there's no mechanical thought. It's just like almost like you're pre-programmed to play the round, like somebody programmed you, and you're the computer program just running the program, and you're just out there, and it's like, 150, and there's the hole, and it's this club, and I swing, and then I walk to the next shot. And it's this really neat kind of hard to get to place that so many people call the zone, or, we've got a lot of words for it, but we use the term mushin, and the Focus Band just measures that state, like allows you to get some feedback of when you're in that state. And so what's really cool is the guys, Henry and Graham and Jason Goldsmith, over the last 5 or 6 years since they've been working with this device and its different phases, have been working with tour players and actually have found a way to develop that state. So for the first time in history, and we're not the only ones. I'm a certified Focus Band coach, and Jason and Henry and Graham, we're all kind of sharing this message, but we're not the first ones to ever come up with this process that creates that state. But with the Focus Band that they've created, we're now able to measure what the process is creating. And so you can imagine if you're hitting golf shots and you didn't have a flight scope, you're just hitting balls, and you're like, well, I think that one went farther, and I think the spin was lower, and I think the launch angle was this. Your feedback is just a little bit limited. It's just limited to what you can see. And when you have a flight scope, you're hitting a shot, and the ball's launching out there at this trajectory, and it's spinning at this rate, and the path is this, and the face is this. You're getting all this great data, and your brain can kind of assimilate and say, okay, we did this, and that created that. And that's what the Focus Band does for the mental game. It allows you to see what your mind is doing and allows you to use we have some tools. We have Jason and Henry and Graham over the past 5 years have developed some methods, but to develop or to influence or induce that zone state or that motion state. But at the end of the day, it's measuring what your mind's doing and giving you feedback so that you can get in that zone state kind of on command. So I'm sorry that that's a really long explanation, but I'm doing my best to try to give everybody an understanding of really what this thing does, how it works. And it's not pseudoscience. It's not anything major, new, like modern. Yes, it is measuring brain frequency, which sounds new and incredible, but we've all known this stuff. The zone exists. That mental state for peak performance exists. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, all these guys, they're in that state. They're in that state when they perform their best. And so now with Focus Band, we can measure and say, yeah, you're in that state right now. No, you're not in that state right now. And then hopefully improve and develop the skills to get there on command.
Yeah, I think what's so neat is, like you said, it's the practice of meditation and mindfulness it's been around forever. And now that it's got the technological aspect, which golf is such a techie industry, especially, as of recently, which we saw at the show, it's almost like it's combining these two worlds, and it's really made it acceptable in the golf world. You and I were talking at our little dinner that night that, you guys kind of expected to have a little bit of backlash coming into the show, maybe with, this whole idea of working on the mind and how that's going to improve the game and the technological piece. But you really had a very warm welcome.
Oh, it was amazing, Jeff. I honestly, still right now, just putting myself back in that body at the PGA show, I still cannot believe all of the top 100 teachers, all of the guys walking up and saying, yeah, I want to know more about this. This is real. This is really important. I heard about this and I want to know more about it. I want to use it in my coaching. I honestly still can't believe that so many golf pros were accepting that measuring the mental performance was going to be a huge impact. It was going to have a huge impact on their coaching. And I guess, maybe I didn't give them enough credit, or probably it's my own experience, my own belief. I spent, 9 years working on my physical game, and always knew that the mental game was important, but just didn't quite give it enough credit maybe. And so I thought, how are these guys going to accept this? But absolutely, they 100%, just about everybody that, in the top 100 that was at the PGA show came up and said, I want to learn more about this. And I've had some calls with guys and been chatting with so many coaches now. I mean, just great coaches all across the country who've bought a Focus Band or who are implementing it in their coaching and want to know more, want to know how to use it effectively. So yeah, it was a great, really warm welcome from everybody at the show.
Yeah, so I had a chance to actually have you run me through a couple drills when we were at the show, and it was neat because we were hooked up to a flight scope. I think we were even on a body track pressure sensor. You had the app where I could see the activity going on in my brain and all that stuff, and you just kind of walked me through. Okay, here, hit a shot, and then you took me through some of the process of now learning how to kind of visualize and look at the ball, look at my target. So for those of us, obviously a lot of the folks that are listening to the show have never tried a Focus Band, don't have access to one yet. Can you maybe even walk us through a little bit of an activity that they could do without the technology, but that would kind of give them a little glimpse into what they can start putting into, part of their game, maybe their pre-shot routine or whatever you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm coaching for the last 6 months. I've been coaching pretty much exclusively with the Focus Band. But there are some players that we don't have to have the Focus Band on to get some really big gains, make some really big improvements. So one thing that I would say for sure is I think at the last moment, before you pull the trigger, what I've seen with all of the professional golfers, the PGA Tour and LPGA Tour, and professional tennis players and motocross riders, the people I've been working with that are at the highest level, the one thing that I see from everyone, and I think if there's one absolute that you can take away from this call that's concrete, that I would say will absolutely help your game, it is if your awareness at the moment before you take the club back, if your awareness is on the target or in the direction of where you're going to go, if you're a skier or if you're a motocross rider, excuse me, if you know where you want to go if you know where you want the ball to go, if you can send your awareness there and then allow that to kind of start your swing or start your movement. If you're a tennis player, you send your awareness to the tee in the center, the back center of the court if you're returning, or if you're serving, it's out wide and you just kind of put a mental spotlight on this area in the court, and then that dictates your whole motion. So I would say, without getting through the entire process, which does take, of course, some time, I would say the last bit before you pull the club back in your mind, and it's not mine, it's not new, this has been around forever, but what I've seen on the focus band getting the feedback is that if you're an elite athlete, if you're a great player, you have your mind on the target or this place, away from mechanics, away from analytical thought, and away from critical thinking, just completely just devoted to your intention, which we would have in golf. We would have your intention to be send the ball to the target. I think, the process is pretty simple. I won't get all the way through it, but we just connect the target and the ball, and the target and the ball as you're walking through it. And Jeff, I'm sure you can remember some of it as I was walking you through it. I was just keeping your mind. I was sort of forcing you to put your mind in places that were valuable. So I wasn't letting you think about your stance. I wasn't letting you think about your grip or your posture or who was watching or the rest of the show going on. I was really kind of forcing you to focus on the ball and the target and the ball and the target. And then at the last moment, I would say, do you remember where the target is? Can you remember where the target is? And then once you said yes, once I asked that question, I know your mind is going into a place to search for the target. And once that's happening, I know it's ready to go ahead and swing. And we saw that feedback with the focus band. It gives us the feedback that when your mind is in that focused state and it's directed on awareness and intention rather than mechanical or fearful or analytical thoughts, we see this motion state. We see this peak performance state. And you saw in your first routine, we saw this red, going on. And in the second routine, when I directed you and kept you in that mind state of having focused intention of the ball and the target, we had all of that green. We had all of that motion. So, I guess that sums up kind of what we're going for really quickly.
Yeah, I can vividly remember, I think I only hit 2 balls, but I can vividly remember you asking me the question after the second ball. Did I hear or pay attention to any of the people around me? I mean, we were in the middle of the show, so it was loud as can be, and there were people everywhere, and I knew I had some buddies behind me that I knew were, analyzing my swing as I was about to take a swing, but it really did. It like shut everything out. I can totally envision right now as we sit here, the tee on the Titleist that I was focusing on the ball, and I was focusing on a light that was kind of like down by the driving range, which was off in the distance, and I went from the ball to that focus, and I can still see those. And to only hit 2 balls and go through that process and still be able to visualize that right now sitting here just kind of, to me, shows how important and how much input that can stress onto the brain and really kind of have an effect on what you're focusing on. But I think that most amateur golfers, and myself included, when I step up to the tee box, usually it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep the club here. I'm going to, is my posture good? That kind of stuff. So we kind of seem to have it backwards based on your feedback.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I've spent so many years, I'd hate to say that it's backwards because I've spent so many years working on all of those things and developing all of those skills in my body. And I don't want to say that it was a waste of time, but, I do believe now, I study a lot. I read a lot of neuroscience. I read a lot about the mind and how it works and performing activities and how to create new patterns and how to create habits. And I just think that now we have a tool that can tell you when you're in the state of mind that's the highest level for peak performance. So for all the hours and hours, 500 balls a day for 6 years in a row, I just wore myself out. If I could have had a tool telling me you're in a good state of mind for learning, you're in a good state of mind for practice at this moment, or you're not, like, don't waste your time, I think it would have been so monumental. I think it would have really helped. And so for every golfer that I meet, and now it's kind of my mission to help them see that there is a state of mind. There is a place that you can go where you can learn. And there's a place where you can go where you can perform. And these places are exclusive. You cannot be thinking about your job, and you can't be thinking about your kids and your wife and your car payment and all these things and practicing and getting better at this physical sport. You really do need to be in the right state of mind in order to improve. And you need to be in that state of mind in order to play your best. So I think it's just amazing that we have a tool now that's relatively inexpensive. It's $500, compared to $10,000. These sensors, they're crazy, crazy expensive. So to put a thing on your forehead that looks like a sweatband that costs $500, connects to your smartphone and tells you you're in the peak performance state right now or you're not, I think is incredible. And yeah,
it's unbelievable. I mean, things like this years ago, computers used to take up a full room, and now we've got these phones and these sensors that are tracking what our brains are doing. It's just mind-boggling to me. So as far as like the technique versus the mindfulness, and I like how you put that we're not wasting our time working on technique and things like that, but knowing that you're in the proper mental state to work on some things. So how do you incorporate some of the technique-related things that you work on with your students and your golfers and use the focus band, or do you work on technique and things when you don't have a focus band? How do you tie all that together? Because obviously you don't want them working too much on that, just a little specifics, but there are definitely things that you have to fix in a person's swing, especially when you're trying to get somebody to the highest of levels. So how do you balance that?
Okay, so I was really fortunate to have worked with Michael Hebron, who was a PGA Teacher of the Year, and this was very early in my career, and Manuel de la Torre, who was the first PGA Teacher of the Year. Both these guys have been around for a while. And early in my coaching, I was able to be influenced a little bit by these guys, their methods, and they'd been around for a long time, and they'd sort of learned that players are learning, or they're performing their best when they're learning, not when they're being told what to do. So that was my first introduction into coaching about don't tell people put your elbow here, put your foot here, put your knee here. It was more about what do you think, if you wanted to hit a draw, you've been hitting a slice your whole life. If you wanted to hit a draw, what would even make the ball curve in the first place? Like, can you imagine what would make a ball curve? And if you ask that question, what happens in the brain is it goes to this sort of imaginative state. It gets very visual. It gets very like nonverbal and imaginative is probably the best word. When I asked that question 10 years ago when I first started my coaching, I didn't realize how powerful that was, but that kind of question on the lesson tee is the right kind of question to induce the Mushin state, or to induce this higher level of learning, this peak performance state. Now with the focus band, what I see is when I ask a question like that, what would make the ball curve? And the player says, okay, yeah, I think in order for it to curve, the ball has to have some spin on it. And then we say, okay, well, what kind of spin causes the ball to curve to the right? And they would, kind of imagine in their mind, they would be in that Mushin state. I would see the feedback on the focus band that the ball would be rotating clockwise to curve to the right. And I would say, okay, that's great. Now, what would make it curve to the left? And then they would obviously say it would rotate counterclockwise. And then I would say, well, what kind of club-ball interaction needs to occur in order to cause the ball to have that spin on it? And they would do a little, mockery, like put the club next to the ball and make a little mock, practice swing and show the club brushing across from in to out with a closed face to path ratio. And then I would say, well, is it possible that you could just make a swing that produced that kind of spin? And then they would say, well, yeah, of course I could do that. And then they would do it. And this is 10 years ago, my first lessons. The reason I think probably I was influenced or believed I could be a great teacher was because in my very first lessons, I could teach people to hit a draw, from going from hitting a slice to hitting a draw first time in their life in the first swing. And this coaching that I was doing then and had gotten away from for a while, but I'd gotten back to for sure in the last 5 years, now is being validated by the focus band. When you ask those questions and the player really is interactive, they're really learning. They're really kind of imagining and picturing and then and then doing with their body. They're in that mind state. And so as coaches, I think we want to always be inducing that mind state, because that's the creative learning state, is that motion state. In any other state, you're aware, you're thinking about other people around you, you're thinking about your performance, you're worried about your performance. But if you can take a student to that place where they're investigating and they're kind of being creative and they're thinking, they're visualizing, then they're at that high state, and we know that's the highest state for learning, and it's the highest state for performing. So that's the state we want. That's the state we're trying to induce all the time in coaching.
I love that. It's so cool how things have come kind of full circle from, the very start of you being just a novice rookie instructor, learning from some amazing coaches, and then now, going through your travels and your journeys, and now coming across where you are now and really seeing the validation and having the skill set of the technical stuff, but kind of coming back to where it all started.
Yeah, it's been a really neat journey. I mean, as a coach, for sure, which I think is probably like if I was sent here on this planet to do something, I think it's to coach. I think it's to enrich the lives of others and using golf as the kind of medium to do that. I just think that's what I was born to do. But as a player as well, I'm one of you. I'm one of those guys. I'm out there every day wanting to be my best golfer as well. So it's a neat journey. I can't say that I wish I could go back and stop all the mechanical stuff, because I'm glad I learned it all. It has a place. It definitely has a place. But being able to have learned very early on from some great coaches that did figure out that it was mostly mental, and then now to be working with a technology that proves that it's mostly mental and helps develop that mental state. It's been phenomenal. It's been an awesome, for sure, last 6 months just having this tool. My students just mind-blowing experiences as a coach. I mean, it's been so long that I've been coaching every day, and to have an experience that's like, wow, that was the best coaching experience of my life. To have that now is just, it's amazing. I'm really grateful to have met the guys, Graham and Henry, and of course Jason, who's been super influential. I'm really grateful to have it in my coaching, to have it in my repertoire.
So let's, if you have some off the top of your head, let's throw in a couple stories that you've experienced, some things that you've seen, players that you've worked with maybe.
I'll give you one. I'm not going to give you any tour. I mean, I could give you Michelle Wee, and because I was there for that while Jason was working with Michelle, and I could give you some big top names, but I want to give you one that really blew my mind. It was a 74-year-old guy calls me and says, Sam, as you know, Jeff, I've written a few books, and they're on Amazon, and I've got a website with all of my instruction, and so people can go there and they'll buy a course, or they'll buy some instruction from me, and then they'll call me and say, Sam, I'd like to take some in-person lessons. So a lot of what I've been coaching has been very much about the ball and the club and the path and the low point and sort of the physics of golf, so to speak. And so this guy calls me and says, I'd like to work with you. I want to work with you on my driver. I've loved everything I've gotten from you in my irons, but I'm not hitting my driver well. And so I say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to be doing a clinic in Borrego Springs, California next week. Let's meet up there. And he says, okay, great. So he goes out there and I go out there. And he's 74, so he's too old he says to me, I'm too old to spend 2 days hitting balls. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Why don't you just come by for a day or half a day or whatever? So he shows up on the first or second day, I can't remember, but he shows up, and I'm working with the other guys, and I'm like, oh, this guy's coming, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes with this guy. So he goes through his bag and hits every shot he's got, all the way up to his 3-wood, and then he says, okay, now I'm in my drive. I'm ready to hit my driver. And I don't say anything during all those shots with his irons and his fairway woods, and he's hitting fairly well for, I'm thinking this guy's probably a single-digit handicap. And he pulls out his driver and he goes, this is the one that gives me the most problems. This is the one I don't hit well. And I just say to him, I don't have the focus band on him, but I just say to him, hey, you know what? It would be awesome if you could just hit a shot for me. Please, just for this one shot, could you just swing? I don't care where it goes. I don't even care if you make contact. I'd just like to see what your body does when your intention is to swing and hit the ball to that target out there. So can I just like, walk you through a process real quick, and you hit a shot, and we won't worry about what your swing's doing. We'll just worry about, you just listen to what I say. And so he's like, yeah, sure, that's no problem. So I do kind of, Jeff, what I did with you, but he's not wearing a focus band.
Sure.
And I walk him through the process, and he's in this shot routine. And then I'm like, okay, do you remember where the target is in your mind? And he says, yeah. And I say, okay, go ahead and swing. And he swings and he hits the ball right at the target. I mean, like, sort of like jaw-dropping accuracy. Like, he's like, I can't. His response was, that's not what I do. Which is like, okay, yeah, I know you came here because you're a terrible driver of the golf ball. And I'm like, that's fine. You know what I need to do? Can I see one more? Can we do that process one more time? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And he's like, actually, yeah, that's better, because that shot is not one that I expect to see. So I want to show you what I normally do. I'm like, okay, fine. So I walk him through the whole process again. We asked the last question right before he's getting ready to swing. I said, do you remember where the target is? And he says, okay, yeah, I know where it is. And I said, go ahead and swing. And he swings, and this ball goes even farther and right at the target. And he goes, okay, this is really crazy. I never do this. That's two of the best drives I've ever hit in my life. And I never hit my driver that well. I'd really just like to show you what I normally do. And I'm like, that's fine. I want to see that. But again, I'm really sorry. I was just kind of watching the ball and looking at the impact. I want to check some other things. Do you mind if we just do it one more time? So we go through the whole thing again. He hits another drive right down the middle. So long story. I mean, this takes 2 hours, this thing we're doing with this guy. But at the end of the 2 hours, in the first 7 shots, he hit 7 balls exactly down the middle, and each ball went longer than the last. And he's on the 8th ball. The reason he didn't hit the 8th ball well, he told me afterwards he wanted to hit it bad because he was in sort of this disbelief state. He was like, I need to prove to myself that this isn't working, so I'm going to hit a bad one on purpose. And it was so amazing. That was the real turning point for me. When I saw that if I just put, now obviously this guy's 74, he's played a long time. He was about a 10 handicap, and he was a decent golfer. He'd hit enough balls to have some experiences. His body kind of knew how to make the club work. His mind, his internal mind. But he hit this shot. He hit these shots without any directive thought, without any prefrontal cortex self-talk, put my elbow here, make sure I do this, make sure I do that. He hit all these shots, all 7 of those shots, right at his target, and each one went farther than the last. And that, for me, was like, okay, this is new. This is big. This is a new way of coaching. This is a new way of playing. This is going to change the way people take golf lessons, people play golf. And I knew at that point that, and so the guy called me the next day, and he's like, I shot the best round of my life. And I've got a lot of these stories, Jeff. I mean, I was just on a Skype call. I'm in Puerto Rico right now. I was just on a Skype call with a guy in New Jersey who is like, Sam, just so you know, the last 2 rounds of golf I played, we had some good weather here. I went out and played. I shot my best round ever last week or a couple days ago, and then I went out again the next day and shot my best round ever again. So topping and then topping, and it's like, yeah, this is real. This mental strategy, this getting your mind in the right place to perform, it's real. We've known it for 100 years and 1,000 million years. Samurais in Japan and China were doing this forever ago, but now we have a technology that measures it and helps us develop the ability to get into that mind state. It's so awesome. It's been really, really cool.
It sounds so refreshing. I mean, obviously it sounds too good to be true, but it sounds so refreshing too, to be able to kind of wipe your mind clear of a lot of these technical things. I mean, on a daily basis, working with my clients in the gym, the conversations that I hear go on between some of the golfers and what they're working on. And I mean, sometimes I look at my buddy Crash and I'm like, man, these guys, they've got a lot going on upstairs, and and to think that you're trying to do that over every single swing is incredible that people even come back to the game. But so I think it's been really cool, and I want to get a little bit of perspective from you as a player, what it's done for you, and then kind of go into the project that you're working on right now with the guys down in Puerto Rico.
Sure. So as a player, I think I'm a little green. I would say my mission on this earth is to help other golfers. First and foremost, I've always loved the craft of perfecting a skill, which is why I think I love this game so much, because it is one of the most challenging skills to perfect. But as a player, I'm in the process of developing my own game on this new platform of I'm good enough. It's okay. I can kind of exhale. I don't need to read another book. I'm good enough. I can hit the ball. Like, I don't need to spend 10 more hours today working on my positions in my golf swing to get the club face and the club path and the shaft and all this stuff in the exact right spots. I can just truly picture a shot that I intend to hit and let my body answer the question. Let my body take over and do it. And for me, as a player, it's just rewarding. It's sort of like saying, yeah, you can do this, Sam. You're okay. It's okay. You're good enough to just hit the shot. Just go hit the shot. Like, if I were throwing a dart, I wouldn't think about my elbow and my wrist and my foot and my hip and my knee, and I wouldn't think about any of that stuff. I just picture the bullseye and say, this is my intention. I want to hit a bullseye. I wouldn't even say it, but that would be my intention. Then I would throw the dart. And if I missed the bullseye, it would be okay, because I could try again, and I could improve. And in golf, we miss the bullseye and we go, well, what caused me to miss the bullseye? And it's like, no, it's okay. You just missed. Like, no problem. Go get it and then hit it at the bullseye again. And so in the last few weeks, I've wanted to see what this can do for my own game. And so that leads me to where I am. I called a couple of buddies of mine a few years back. For any listeners who have access to YouTube, watch YouTube, which is probably basically all golfers, right? We're all on YouTube constantly. If you check out TourQuest, TourQuest, it's this little team I put together a couple of years ago to help some of my fellow competitors, travel and compete and play and have a little funding. We built this little team, and we got some sponsors and some great companies, True Linkswear and G4, and these new kind of innovative companies to join on and help us out. And we all traveled the country, and we played Monday qualifiers. An awesome story. We made 13 episodes, so check that out. It's really fun, a neat thing. But I called a couple of the guys from that little project, and I said, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna go away. I'm going to go far away. I'm going to go to the most beautiful resort where I've ever been, that I've ever been to. And I'm going to be in a house on this resort, and I'm going to spend 30 days just letting go of everything and just saying, basically, I'm good enough to play this game. If I just keep my mind state in the right place, I think I can develop my skill at a much higher rate. I've seen it with the guys I've been coaching, and now I want to do it for myself. And I called a couple guys that I really care about, good friends of mine, and I said, hey, I think this is the answer. You guys, me, you guys, we've all spent, together we have 30 years of, competitive golf, mini tours. I mean, Mark Baker, he played the Australian Open, a few months ago. He played in Torrey Pines in the San Diego Open, Farmers Insurance. Casey Lynn had a Web.com tour card last year. These guys are great players, but we've all spent so much time doing everything we think we need to do biomechanically, physically. And I'm not taking away from that, because we do a beach workout every single morning that kicks our butts. It's 30 minutes of the most intense workout I've ever done in my life. And then we do another one every night. So I'm not taking away from the physical aspect of this, but these guys have, and myself included, we've done everything physically and mechanically that you can possibly do to become a great golfer, and we're not there. We're not on tour. We're not winning PGA Tour events. So I said to them, come with me. Let's go. I'll sponsor it. I'll fund the thing. Let's go away, and let's focus for 30 days. It's going to go by anyway, right? The month is going to go by anyway. Let's spend 30 days doing this, because you're just going to do what you used to do anyway for the next 30 days. So let's try something new. And Mark had some experience with Focus Band, and Casey Lim was so ready for this because he spent the last year working on his swing and had learned a lot of good stuff, but was ready to kind of let go of some of it and just practice playing the game again. So we committed. We're here for 30 days. We've been here a week. Yesterday was our 7th day and we kind of celebrate it a little bit. But for the most part, every morning we wake up. We're in Isabela, Puerto Rico, which is it's heaven. I mean, I've been here a few times, and I absolutely love this place. The resort is called Royal Isabela. It's the most amazing place on earth. It's been called the Pebble Beach of Puerto Rico. We're very, very fortunate to have the support of the club here, allowing us to do what we're doing. We get up every morning and we go to the beach, which is about a 3-minute car ride, but we could hike there pretty quickly as well. We ride to the beach. We do some, I don't know if you know who Tom House is. He's
for sure.
Performance coach at USC. He's worked with like tons of top baseball players, pitchers, batters, and he's a rotational sports kind of coach. So we're doing his routine, working out every morning, and it is intense. Run in the sand, ladder drills, rotational exercises. Then we go swim for like 20 minutes in the ocean. Then we get back, we put on the focus bands, we go to the putting green. We spend an hour or two on the putting green working on our process. Then we go play 18 holes. Then and of course we eat like amazingly well. We're cooking all fresh organic food here, eating like 3-4 meals a day. We're taking supplements from X Endurance, this supplement company that hooked us up with some stuff. But we're doing all this stuff every single day, working out every night. So 2 workouts a day, 18 holes every day, a couple hours on the putting green working on our mental game. And I have to tell you, Jeff, it is the most fun I've ever had working on my golf game. It is so refreshing to just say, my job is to play. My job is to picture the target and swing. That is so much better for me, so much more fun for me than working on mechanics for 6 or 8 or 10 hours on the range. And we all know we've done it. I've been doing it for 10 years. These guys have been doing it the same amount of time. We've got 30 years of mechanical experience that isn't leading us to PGA Tour wins. So we believe that this is the difference. The mental aspect is the difference. And we're taking 30 days away from everyone in our lives to focus on that mental aspect, developing that mental aspect using the focus band. And so far, it's been just incredible. It's been an awesome experience.
I love it. It does sound like heaven. And, most of the time when you're thinking about mini tour golf and professional golf and practicing, you think of that term grinding and, grinding it out. But I'm envisioning you guys just like, obviously your workouts are grueling, but you're having fun. You're swimming in the ocean. You're going and you're playing. And, yeah, it doesn't sound like that grinding, which just sounds painful. It has that negative connotation.
Grind, yeah, that word. Yeah, we've heard it all, and it's like, go grind some more. Yep, just grinding it out. And I've always kind of wondered, like, does it have to be a grind?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't look like, yes, it looks like Rory is focused, but it doesn't look like he's grinding. He doesn't look like beat up at the end of the round. He looks energized, he looks intense. And I think because he's playing the game, he's really playing. That's his job. He goes there to play every day. And I made this comment yesterday. We're paddleboarding. I mean, Jeff, like, you should just come down.
I got it, man. I got to make it down there.
And we can take some pictures for your podcast. You can put it in the thing. But it's sort of like we're paddleboarding out on the ocean. And I say to Casey, who's like, 20 yards away from me, I'm like, what a great game that life is, as long as you remember to play the game. That's it. You just have to play. And it's just like in golf, this life is just a giant game. And if you're playing the whole time, it's super fun. If you're grinding, it's
work.
Yeah, it's work, right? And so what you're doing right now, talking to me, I know you're enjoying it. What I'm doing, talking to you, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
What we do on the course, we pick targets and swing to them. That's fun. It's like, can I hit the bullseye? I don't know. Let's try. And that's our job now. Instead of, I'm going to try to make the perfect swing and I'm going to try to use my new P5 with ulnar deviation coming into impact through P7 and my follow-through is going to look like this. Instead of doing that, we're just like trying to play golf. And it's a great game. It's such a great game to just play and not work at, to just play. So we're loving it. And I'm loving it. And, maybe it will improve my scores. Maybe it will influence my career standings as a player. But at the end of the day, I can absolutely say it has made golf to me just so much more enjoyable. I mean, I love going every day. I've been doing this 10 years every day, and I love going to the course every day. I can't wait to go play.
That's what it's all about. All right, man. Before we wrap up, I got a couple questions for you, just
Sure.
to kind of finalize things. If you had the opportunity to play golf or ride in a cart or just walk 18 holes with somebody in the world of golf, either now, presently, or in the past, who would it be and why?
That's okay. So I want to say Hogan, just because, and I know it's cliche, but I want to say Hogan. But actually, I'd rather play with me at age 19, who just is starting golf, and I just want to say, like, Sam, just do everything. Everything's fine. Just do everything you're going to do. Just keep the mission in mind. Help others, and keep that at the forefront. And do something every day to help yourself, to perfect your own game. But just stay on the path, because it's going to be a great journey. I would love to have the opportunity to tell myself that, at that age.
That's such a great answer. And you kind of alluded to the answer to the next question, which is, what is your mission for 2016 and just what you're doing in general?
So in 2006, I decided I wanted to win the U.S. Open. So I watched Phil hit a ball so far offline and on the 18th hole, and I sadly don't know the course. It was somewhere in New York, maybe Shinnecock or something. Blocks this ball so far left and hits it at 10. And I say to myself, watching the replay I'm watching it on my couch that night because I'd been coaching for 10 hours that day. And I'm watching this on ESPN, and I'm like, wow, I would not have hit that shot there. And at that point, it was mental. I thought, Phil hit that shot mentally there. He didn't hit it physically there. He hit it mentally there. And I was very mental coach at that point. So I was like, well, I think if I were in that situation, I would have won the U.S. Open. And then I thought, wow, I think I could win the U.S. Open. So I made it my mission to win the U.S. Open. So I've been working at that for 9 years and February, March, April, May, June, 8 months, 9 years and 8 months. And for about 8 years of it, I worked on my physical game. And I don't think it's unfortunate, but I do think I wasted a bit of time because I jumped from coach to swing model to this and to that. And really at the end of the day, all I had to do was work a little bit on getting the face to path ratio small and hitting the ball at the bottom of the arc or near the bottom of the arc. If I'd worked on that and focused more on mental game, it would have been great. But fine. Where I am is where I am. And it's 2016, and I knew that in 2016, the U.S. Open would be played at Oakmont. And that's where Hogan won. And he said, his quote was something, or I can't quote because I can't remember exactly, but it was something like, I tamed this monster. I'm glad I tamed this monster. And so Oakmont, in my mind, has always been this amazing challenge. And so to win the U.S. Open on Oakmont was my goal. It happened, it was at Oakmont in 2007, the first year I tried to qualify. And it's at Oakmont again this year. So I will be preparing to qualify. I am preparing to qualify for the U.S. Open. And my goal for 2016 has been, on my email sign-off, has been the U.S. Open champion, 2016 U.S. Open champion for 9 years and 8 months. And so I'm in the last leg of this marathon, and I think I'm in a good spot. Mentally, I'm preparing. And even if I don't succeed and win the U.S. Open, I'm very pleased with this whole journey of being focused on this task for 10 years. So my goal for 2016 is to win the U.S. Open.
I love huge goals, over delivering, thinking big. Very, very cool stuff. All right, man. Where can everybody find you? I'll have it all linked up in the show notes. But where can they find you? And one last piece of advice for the audience.
Oh man, please help us. I'm doing everything I can for these guys, Mark and Casey, but they're broke as a joke. They're mini tour players for life. Please just follow us and like our stuff, man. We've got a little Instagram channel called Test of Wills. It's kind of cool. We're posting what we're doing every day. I've got an Instagram channel, Sam Goulden Golf. We've got a Tour Quest Instagram. And I've got a website, samgoldengolf.com, which is mostly my coaching. But just kind of join this journey. It's a really fun project, and we would love to hear some words of encouragement and some followers, some likes and say, hey, we're here to support you guys and keep doing what you're doing. We love what you're doing. I think it goes a long way for these guys who are, thousands of miles away from home and are doing something that they've never done before to just see some likes and some shares and some comments. So Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, obviously. Test of Wills, though, on Instagram is the one that Mark is kind of running, and we'll try to keep everybody posted through that.
Sounds great.
Oh, and the last bit of help, if I can offer one. Hopefully, this podcast, Jeff, reaches billions of people. But
it's happening, man. It's growing.
I would love to just tell people, like, really, this is my message. Every person I work with, whether they spend 3 days with me in a golf school, one-on-one thing, and if they fly down to Puerto Rico, which is starting to happen now, my mission is to let people know that they are good enough, that it's within you. It's not something that you have to strive and grind and work for. Making a putt, making a 10-foot putt is something it's a game. It's a fun game. Just let's put your mind in the place of, let's just try to make this putt. Let's just hit the ball. Like, the intention is to hit the ball in the hole. Let's play that game. You're good enough. You've got 2 arms and 2 legs. Even if you don't have 2 arms and 2 legs, you still can play this game. You're good enough to play this game. Just let's put our minds in the right place, and let's just go play. Let's enjoy playing. And just remember that you're good enough. We're physical human bodies that have brains that have capacities that can't even come close to understanding. So just let it go and just know that you're good enough and just play. Just enjoy the game, because it's such a great game.
I love your angle, Sam. It's so cool. All right, man. Thanks for joining us. We've talked about so much stuff on this podcast. I know the audience is going to get a ton out of this. Like I said, I'll link everything up in the show notes. They'll know where to find you. We'll follow you guys on Instagram, Facebook, and we'll keep our eye on the journey.
Thank you, Jeff, so much for taking the time to reach out to us. I really appreciate it, and I know the guys are going to love seeing some followers and some comments. It goes a long way to see that support, and I hope I've been a little help to a few people out there.
All right, what I tell you, the guy has an amazing story. He's had some amazing journeys as a teacher, as a player, and continues to do so. And this whole project with the guys from Tour Quest, we're going to kind of keep you guys updated and stay in touch with them on social media. So I think it's going to be very cool to see what happens over 30 days of, hitting it very hard as far as the workouts are concerned, the physical part, definitely hitting the mental part with the focus band, and then just having fun out on the course and taking a different approach to training compared to what all 3 of these guys are used to, growing up playing golf and playing very high-level golf. So we'll definitely keep you posted there. I personally am super excited about checking out the focus band and utilizing it. Meditation has become one of those things that I've been dabbling with as of recently. I absolutely believe in the fact that being able to quiet your mind and taking that time on a regular basis can be super, super beneficial. So I've made it my goal to take 10 minutes a day and really practice this. And sometimes I use a guided meditation either from YouTube or there's an app that I use, or sometimes it'll just be sitting quietly kind of visualizing or focusing on my goals or what I'm doing that day, or even just trying to totally quiet the mind. So I'm looking at getting one of the focus bands and seeing how well I can actually do that, and to try out the different programs or apps that they have to kind of walk me through that, and then using it for my golf game as I start to ramp up and kind of get ready to play a little bit more golf this year. I'm very excited to see the whole premise of using that feel, using that focus, as opposed to being so technical. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast, this episode with Sam. I think it was a great one. If you want the show notes, go to 18strong.com, and this is episode number 78. You can search for Sam or episode 78, and you'll find it there. You'll have all the links to everything we talked about here in the show, and you'll also be able to go get that pre-round warm-up that I mentioned earlier. So thanks again for joining me. And you know how the rest goes. Train hard, practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong Podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
A former greenskeeper now about to become the Masters champion. It's in the hole!